Just a reminder, I'm still struggling with enunciation and volume and a lot of pain. I've put this off thinking it would be better, but I'm looking at another 6 to 8 weeks of going through this, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get it done now. And you'll just have to turn your volume up and try to listen the best you can. I apologize, but that's what I'm working with right now. This video is to cover some things that led up to Laura making threats to call my husband's job and some things that have followed since then. Okay, I'm going to have to start back to when I was a sub of Laura's and I was getting ready to leave. I wanted to just quietly leave. I had a few reasons for doing so, but in my mind, I knew how Laura could be, and I had remembered some things that she had repeatedly said. One was she hated it when people left and they ran to her quote-unquote haters, or they revealed some private messages or DMs. There was usually some type of drama, or, as she would say, lies being told. I didn't have anything behind the scenes to share. I simply wanted to leave. I wasn't looking to go into any new chats. To give you a timeline, I left around the same time her and Makeup Mobster had their falling out, and she was beginning to be friends with Molly again. Something I want to speak on is whether I was a sub of Laura's or not. I have been very vocal with my comments here about how horrible it is to call CPS on her kids in every CPS call that they've been through. Even though she kind of downplays the first 3, all 5 CPS calls her kids are victims of. And it was horrible. It's a vile thing to do. I don't care how you feel about Laura, what you think she may have done on here, what she has done on here, even in light of what we know now. Whether you agree with her parenting or not, CPS should not have been called on her kids. And I know that I even offered to hook her up with a lawyer in her area at one point. In one of her streams I was in at the time, I offered her a cabin for the weekend for her and her kids to get away so that they wouldn't have to worry about CPS and the cops showing up on their door that weekend. I want to cover one other thing, and it'll also show how Laura knew some information about me. I wasn't a sub of Laura's at the time, but when Brad died, I reached out to her. 1, to offer my condolences. 2, to offer to look around in her area through some of the connections I had and see if maybe I could find some programs, or even in the state, some things that he could do that might be beneficial to him during that time. And 3, I kind of gave her my insight on football in my 30 years as a player's wife and a coach's wife of what I thought the football program could offer him, especially the fact that I knew his high school football coach. I knew the type of program that he had. I knew the discipline. I knew the life lessons he would learn, the great male role models and mentorships that he would have, even other players' dads. I know they usually step up when there's a loss in the family or someone goes through something tragic. They come together, and I knew that Laura didn't know much about football. She's not from the South where football reigns like it does here. And I just wanted to tell her and speak on some of the opportunities that it will give him with his natural size and abilities. I knew by his junior and senior year, there's a great opportunity that he would start being recruited, probably on a D1 level. And I wanted her to understand, this was great for now, for what he's going through mental health-wise and his physical, but it also was going to be an opportunity for him to have his college paid for in the future. Initially, when I left Laura, I made it a point to only talk about the current things that she was doing, maybe the ignorant and the racist things, especially because those matter to me more than anything, that type of mindset, because that type of mindset affects the people that I love the most in their everyday real life, especially living here in the South. And it wasn't until over time when Laura's current behavior started to reflect her past behavior did I start mentioning and bringing that up and making comparisons and showing a pattern of behavior over time on YouTube. I mention this because that's about the time that I received an email. A little over a year ago, I received an email from somebody that was either a current sub, patron, or member of Laura's. And they had a bit of information they wanted to share about me that they had learned from another patron or member or sub of Laura's that I think might have been closer to Laura. And it didn't have anything to do with anyone else. It's not something that could have been faked. It's just something that I might need a heads up about. I wasn't very surprised or shocked to learn what I learned. It's typical Laura. It's kind of what we come to expect around here from her. So I just figured, okay, I'm going to keep my eyes and ears open, and I'm going to watch and see what she does going forward. It didn't take long for Laura to tell on herself. Around the first of the year, she was reviewing either a community post or a comment section of Makeup Mobsters, and she made a comment towards several of us, but she a comment that she made in particular about me let me know right then and there Laura had been looking me up. And it was around 2 weeks later that I got the last and final email from the person who was a sub member or patron of hers. I don't know if they've left since or not, but that was the last one I got from them. And yes, I knew for a fact then with what they sent me that Laura had looked me up, but I also realized that Laura had gotten the wrong person when she was looking me up. And I knew that from the little bit of information that she had put out. Keep in mind, what I just spoke on and what I'm about to speak on happened in 2024. You know, a change to Laura. So now knowing what I knew and knowing that Laura was reading the comments in Makeup Mobster streams more often, I decided that I'd have a little fun and I would drop a little thing here or there and I would mention about, you know, it's crazy how there's always somebody from Laura sharing behind the scenes, sharing things that she's said and done. And, you know, she might want to be careful. She never knows who might be sharing what. Knowing she was looking at our comments in the live streams and comment section and community posts more often, I decided to do something. I went to Laura's old streams that I could get a hold of where I was a sub and made comments. And I looked at some of those and I thought, wow, I could apply those today. And I mean, they still apply. It doesn't matter who I'm saying it to or about, they still apply. So I started inserting a few of those into Makeup Mobsters chats when I could and where I could find a place where, you know, it wouldn't look crazy. And it happened to be on the day that I did this, I was also doing something that Laura calls people out for all the time, not correcting misinformation in Makeup Mobsters chat, not, you know, sticking up when people are saying things, bad things, or attacking your kids. So I had an opportunity to pop one of those comments over there, and it is the comment that set Laura off that she read that caused this whole event to transpire where she is now threatening my husband and to go real life. And I just found it funny because it was a comment that she supported when I made it in her chat. So much so that she pinned it. She pinned this comment. But now when I'm saying it in Makeup Mobsters chat, I'm wrong. I'm horrible and it's worth attacking my husband and going real life. Before I replay the threat, keep in mind she was watching Makeup Mobster in real time that day and reading the comments out. So the second comment that you're going to hear her read, she had already threatened my husband, and this was letting her know what would happen if she started calling around and trying to call people or call my husband.
I think her longtime subs like Bonnie will always want to send the kids gifts. I don't see anything wrong with people gifting things to her kids if they want. Why are you speaking on my children? Why are you speaking on Bonnie? Why are you speaking on my life at all? You don't like me, remember? Would your husband or the football team K-Bells appreciate the way you speak online? Like, this is fucking weird. Like, this is so weird. Yeah, Dana responds to the haters from his penthouse.
Laura can't help but mention her husband. I have one of those husbands who would nicely tell her, even if he doesn't, FAFO when it comes to his wife. Well, we'll see about that, K-Bells, won't we? Because I really don't think he will. I think he'll tell you to grow the fuck up and stop. I think that's where it'll go. Because didn't you say that your husband was friends with my son's coach? I think you did say that. So we'll see who's telling who to FAFO. Just saying. Because this could be real. This could end up being a lot of fun. I could probably get all of them shut the fuck up. Let's see.
So what Laura doesn't understand is the coaching position that he has is tied to his teaching position. And so when you make that kind of threat, then I'm able to go to the AEA rep and get free legal representation, or he is. And so what they do is you give them all the information, you give them heads up, you give them the background, and I shared the stuff, clips and stuff of Laura's and the threat, and all the links to all the playlist, so that they take it and they go and be proactive on your part. They contact the athletic director, they contact the principal, they contact anybody that they need. Any coach that was mentioned, they can now contact and give them a heads up so that you're protected against things like this. Not long after that, I was in another lawyer's office moving some land over into a trust when I ran into his partner in the hallway, and we were discussing something on social media, and I kind of explained something that had happened to me recently. And he told me, whoa, wait, I know you reported it to AEA and you used your legal representation, but this is why you probably need to have some documentation outside of that. And he explained to me why and the steps that we could take. Even if we didn't expect anything else to kick off right now, it would be good to have it in place. And he told me some things that I needed to do. I need to get clips of the threat, links to the videos, which I sent in links to the playlist, and I was going to have to allow his interns to have access to my YouTube channel and the accounts that I had left comments on in order to look back over about 18 months worth of my comments. A few weeks later, I get a call from him. he's pleasantly surprised because usually when he has a client, there's some culpability on their part, and both parties are usually equally as guilty, but this time that wasn't the case. And he explained to me what actions we could take even now, and what we could do moving forward, especially if X, Y, and Z ever happened. Well, my husband and I thought, okay, we've done what we can do. Probably nothing going to come out of it. Just to be on the safe side, we've covered ourselves. As we've seen before, Laura being Laura, she's her own worst enemy. And lo and behold, she gives me something that I really could use. She admits to calling CPS on Makeup Mobster for no other reason than to get her to shut up on YouTube. And that was the missing piece that I needed if I wanted to take immediate action. Look, some of you may think this is overkill, and some of you are tired of hearing people talking about they're going to go legal. But let me tell you something. As vile as CPS calls are, and innocent kids get hurt, innocent kids can get hurt on the threats that she made to my husband. My husband has 30 years of giving back to a community between being a player and a coach. Only this weekend, and I say kid, but he's a 45-year-old man now. My husband's first class that he ever coached reached out to him. He's got his own son in high school this year, and he reached out and he said, you know what, I just want to thank you for being there for me when I didn't have a dad, and you really stood up so that I could play football, I could go to college, all the things I realize now that you did for me when you had your own family at home. I just want you to know thank you, and I'm going to implement those lessons that you taught me. My sons are going to know those lessons. And we hear this all the time. But even a 2 or 3 week investigation right now, if that was to happen, kids would be affected. Their rides to school, somebody staying on top of them about their grades and keeping them out of trouble. The extra snacks that they are provided that he gives because maybe there's not enough food at home. There's a million things that he does for kids every day that you would harm and hurt and take away from them, even for a week or two. And that's sickening to me. Something I've learned and done working with kids, girls and boys that are at risk and trouble through a nonprofit that I work with is we always talk about accountability. And part of the process is when you screw up is you don't just admit it and have remorse, but you understand that there is consequences that come with that. And sometimes it's just rebuilding your reputation or the trust with someone. And I'm all about forgiveness. Had Laura come here with real remorse, real accountability, and understood that there was going to be consequences over time until she really did show some different behavior, I would feel a little bit differently. I think anything can be a learning moment and something that we change, a moment that changes us. But she's done nothing but double down and justify it. And there is my biggest problem. And I don't think that she'll hesitate to do something in the future. Often when there's not consequences that follow, there's not change that follows. And you fall back into old habits. Now, I don't know what the recourse is that Makeup Mobster can take. I'm not sure there is really one that she can. But Laura's consequences may end up coming from somewhere else. While the consequences that she might face if I pursued something would not be nearly as harsh as what she would if Makeup Mobster was able to pursue the CPS calls against her, it's still consequences nonetheless. And while she might try to downplay it or think that there's nothing there, I've had some really great legal advice. I have really good evidence and I can show a pattern, and I feel very comfortable with what I have. And it's really up to her where I go from here. I honestly don't care what anyone's opinion is on the evidence that I have, the things that I'm still sitting on, whether I go legal or not, including Laura. But I do want to make biggest point is in March of 2024, she did that stream making the threat. And you can see what she escalated it from, the type of comment, a comment that before was accepted by Laura, but suddenly now that comment is wrong. And Laura always goes back to it was 3 years ago. Well, this was even after Laura was diagnosed and had started cancer treatment. And I'm not the only one that she's threatened in 2024. So Laura from 3 years ago that would call CPS on people is still the same Laura of today. And this is where Laura and I differ. I care that an innocent kid could get hurt in this. So when I called the AEA legal rep, I asked, even though she had mentioned her son's high school coach, has a 30-year friendship with my husband, I asked that they please not include him in the heads up notification, especially sharing anything that his mom might be doing online. I don't know what they're aware of and they're not aware of, but I don't, even behind his back, don't want him, any kind of ridicule or anything going on. He shouldn't have to pay for what his mom does online. I understand sometimes he even comes on and defends his mom, and And I get it and I understand that, but there's no reason to involve him in it or bring anything in it. I mean, there's going to come a time, especially as he maybe starts being recruited, that you can't protect him from the actions and the things that she's done in the past, because they will look into your social media history as a player and what your parents are doing and look to see what kind of liability you might be. It could hurt NIL money. There's a lot of things that could happen, and I honestly don't want to see that for him. And I hope between now and then Laura really starts trying to rebrand herself so that he doesn't, maybe one day pay for some of the things that she's done online. But I just want to make note of that, I knew that coach knows my husband, he and us. He wasn't going to take anything out of it, anything that Laura said. I mean, he'd be polite, do his job, and listen. But I also know when the call ended, I know exactly what he would be thinking. And so I wasn't really worried about that aspect. When I started off the series, I started off with something really funny because that's more of my personality and who I am. The second one, I tried to lay out some of the hypocrisy and some of the history and pattern of behavior. The third one was more a video I felt like would be done in Laura's style. I used music and things that it's similar to like Laura has used in the past to, be directed at and her subs and some of the clip channels. And it's not really who I am. Yeah, it's kind of funny. And this one, I just wanted to lay out nothing but facts and something that could maybe included in a playlist at some point just to, show a pattern. So I hope you'll stick around for 5, because I'm hoping, depending on what happens, I'm hoping we can have a little fun in 5 and this be the end of it. And Laura, I hope that you really do rebrand yourself and go in a different direction. I really do. I think it'll be nothing but beneficial to yourself and your child in the future. But like I told you in that comment, you mess around, especially with my husband and child, and you will FAFO. I am dead serious. It is not a threat. It is a promise. You do not mess in my real life with my husband, my child, or anything. I don't do that in your real life, and you better not do it in mine. Shout out to those that were able to stick around this long and especially tolerate my voice. Hopefully the next video I do will be fun and I'm feeling a little bit better. Time will only tell about Laura and whether she's still going to go real life on people and what direction that I or someone else might have to take.